The Alberta provincial election is only days away, with advanced polls already underway. Our guest today is Pat Chizek. She's the Alberta Liberal Party candidate for Lethbridge-West. Pat, welcome to Bridge City News. Great to have you on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, a lot of our viewers are curious who Pat Chizek is. Can you just tell us a little bit about your background? Where are you from originally, and who are your political influences?
Basically, I was born and raised in Saskatchewan, and I moved here to attend university, and I've been living here ever since. And I have worked as a substitute teacher in Edmonton, and I worked way up north for many years, and then I moved down to the Lethbridge area, and I've been here ever since.
And you've been very adamant about publicly declaring that the Alberta Liberals are not the same party as the federal Liberal Party led by Justin Trudeau. So how would you explain to the viewers what the difference between the two parties is?
Basically, the number one difference is we may have similar values, but we do not cater to them. We are our own separate independent party. We use the Liberal name. We have Liberal values. But like I know the NDP you joined the NDP provincially and you're there nationally also.
Right,
And
yes.
it's different for the Liberal Party. It's like the UCP is not necessarily belonging to the Conservative Party of Canada. We're similar.
So, but wouldn't the Alberta Liberals in a way have the ear of the federal Liberals or not at all?
Of course we would, because one of the very first things that our leader put out was we have to listen first. And a lot of politicians, they speak first and they start to tell people what to do. So we have to listen. So anytime you're talking with whether it's a municipal government or another provincial government or the federal government, you have to go in agreeing that you want to listen rather than go in and start telling them what to do.
Now, we've had the opportunity to see you in action at the candidate forums in Lethbridge, and you've admitted that the odds are stacked against a victory for the Alberta Liberals. So tell us about yourself and why you're running in this election.
I am running because I feel that the candidates are not listening, and I want them to start listening to the people that they're supposed to represent. And if nobody questions them and they just follow them blindly, they're not being put to task. They don't seem to be wanting to stand up and show these are my values. This is what I'm going to do for you. And if I can just get people, even if they follow the UCP or the NDP adamantly, they've got to start questioning their representatives to make sure that they represent Lethbridge first and not their party leader. And that's why I'm running, just to bring questions in. I don't know if that's the best way to explain it, but that's how I feel.
And also, there's been a lot of negativity between the two main parties, a lot of mudslinging, political attack ads. I'm sure a lot of people are getting very tired of them. What sort of feedback have you been receiving following the forums that you've been attending or when you've been outdoor knocking, which I'm assuming you're doing?
Basically, I am not door knocking. I don't like door knockers.
Oh,
I find that they come between 6 and 8. That's family time. People are getting home from work. They want to have a meal. They want to have time with their kids. And when I've done it in the past, it hasn't been well received. And it doesn't matter before you get out what party you're for. So I just said, I'm not going to door knock. I will speak with people when I'm out in public. I will do things like this. I will answer phone calls, emails, but I don't do that because there's so much negativity. And there's a lot of voter apathy, like they're fed up with the governments of not listening. And I want to be a person who can listen first.
and it's interesting that you're being very observant of the 6 to 8 time, which is family time. So let's get into some of the issues. You're a retired school teacher, so I'm sure you have a lot to say about education. Tell me, what do you see as being some of the biggest issues in the education system, and where would you like to see change take place?
Actually, in this campaign, I have been educated as to the shortcomings our current education system has. And I've spoken with a lot of teachers, and none of the teachers have ever said they want more for themselves. Not one has said that. They want to bring back funding that was taken away for kids who have learning specialties. and whether it's in speech or language or hearing or all those things, kids that have behavior specialties, a lot of those are missing. We are the lowest province per student funding. We promise, like, we got to put in billions to get us up to the average. So we need to bring that kind of special things in. We need to have educational assistants who are well paid. They're not well paid. I just found out this week how the number of them that have in Lethbridge here that have to have second jobs because they're only earning $24,000 to $25,000 a year. Very low paid. And why? This should be a calling for them. This should be where, like a teacher, they want to go in this as a career and not just a part-time job.
Now, we've been hearing a lot about overcrowding in the classroom as well. What can you tell us about this? And as an MLA, what would you do to help that situation?
Well, I've heard numbers from anywhere from 26 to 34 kids in the elementary school. We have to first mandate specific numbers. And when they get over those numbers, you have to have a second classroom or a third classroom. And if you compound that with a class that has 28 or 30 students in there, and 3 or 4 of them have special needs, and they don't have an educational assistant, learning for everyone drops. So we would mandate K to 3 to start with, enrollment numbers.
Now, as a teacher, can you just tell us what is your opinion of the school voucher system where parents are given a voucher for each student or for each of their children, and they can enroll their child in a school of their choice, but then that would also put schools in competition with each other?
First and foremost, I am a public school teacher and I like the public school system. And I like it because the public school system doesn't select its students. We welcome everybody into the fold. We try to maximize each student can reach their potential. And some specialty schools, some will only select certain students and others get left out. I do also believe it is the parent's right to choose. There should be a baseline that each student is worth so much money to the school system, whether they go to a charter school, whether they go to a private school. But I don't think voucher system would work if you're going to have a system that includes public education.
Now, moving along here, healthcare is top of mind in this election. How can we attract and retain doctors and other medical staff for Albertans?
First off, we have to open up more spaces for doctors to study. We have to open up more spaces in Alberta schools. We have to start admitting more Alberta students. We can help, and this is one of our ideas, is to offset the cost of tuition upon graduation. So if they stay here, we will help offset the tuition costs. The second thing is if we need family doctors, then maybe we should consider paying them more. Because a lot of doctors right now, they go in and they specialize because they're in such debt to begin with. They will specialize to help them get out of debt sooner. So maybe we should consider paying our family doctors more.
And what do you suggest for shortening wait times for surgeries and other diagnostic testing?
It's the same thing as we have a medical shortage of doctors, nurses, LPNs, aides. We have to start to educate them. There's a lot of parties that go and say, well, we're going to recruit from other provinces. And other provinces are in the same place we are. And if we're going to start, like on RN, it's going to take 4 years. So no government who's ever elected cannot snap their fingers and immediately the shortage is over. We've got to educate more of them and then help them stay here by enticing them with maybe some remission in their student loans.
And one thing that is loosely tied to healthcare as well, people are tired of drug addiction and the increasing crime and violence that comes along with it. And of course, we've seen more than our fair share of that here in Lethbridge. How would the Alberta Liberals address these issues?
Our focus is not on just addressing addiction or just addressing homelessness or just addressing mental health. You have to tie in all of these together. And I was at a forum the other day and listening to a man from the Blackfoot Nation, and he really seemed to me to have a total approach to this. And I think that's what we have in our own platform was the same thing. It's a total approach. Don't just deal with addictions. Don't just deal with mental health. And housing, you can't just give them houses and think it's all going to be safe again. We learned that with our supervised consumption site. And it was like a one-legged chair. It wasn't going to hold up. So we believe in an approach that has the whole person approach.
So you mentioned the supervised consumption site. Would you be for or against setting up one in Lethbridge? The UCP's Nathan Newdorf and Cheryl Sewborn have said no. The NDP's Shannon Phillips has also said no. And NDP Lethbridge East candidate Rob Miyashiro, after being asked the question a couple of times, said, quote, "At this point, no." So where do you stand on this issue?
No. It's to bring it back the way it was. No, it did not work then. And I don't think if you did the same thing again, that's making the same mistake twice. No.
So you're talking about like the SCS being like a one-legged chair. Is this referring to the four-pillar approach to dealing with addiction?
Similar it is. Now you realize that I am not an addiction specialist. So once again, our policies listen to the people who are working with this within this field, and to have a multifaceted approach. So you have to deal with the physical addiction. You have to deal with them not having a house. Maybe there's some mental health issues. Maybe there's some family issues. All of those things must be dealt with before that person can be successful. And then this person has to be able to be successful once they've completed their programs. So do they have a job? So we have to be able to give all this. And without that approach, this is just if you're just only doing one, it's just putting a Band-Aid on an artery that's spurting blood.
And what's your opinion of the UCP proposal of forced treatment? Is that something you would back? Why or why not?
I don't think you can force treatment. I think that a person who wants help, no matter what their issue is, has to want help. You may give temporary success, and there's always going to be success stories. But I think that to work with the holistic aspect of it is more important than just we're going to get you clean and sober.
Now, switching gears, with ongoing inflation and affordability concerns, what kinds of solutions would a Liberal Party offer?
I'm just kind of wondering about inflation that we're seeing here. And I just heard on the news today that gas prices are going up again, and they're like a 194, 195 in Vancouver. And I'm kind of wondering is why they need to be that high. Because if you put gas prices up, that means transportation costs go up. That means food prices go up. That means our purchasing power goes down. This is basic inflation. And to me, when some of these big corporations that dominate our lives are raising money, I want to know why. Especially when they are recording record profits each quarter. And I think we need a government that steps in and says, wait a minute, why are your prices so high? Why are utilities so high? When you're making record profits and people are barely getting by.
We're just about out of time, but any final thoughts on this election and any thoughts on how to see an increase in popularity for the Alberta Liberals?
COVID really took a bite out of our Liberal Party, and our numbers just dwindled to almost nil for a while. I think we have to get out there, and I have to keep doing this and keep questioning the MLAs and keeping them accountable, and just let the people know that there is an Alberta Liberal Party. We are in the middle. I cannot sit here and say that every idea that the UCP or the NDP proposes is bad. I cannot do that. I want to be a person who works collaboratively rather than competitively, because I believe that we can solve issues in this province rather than mandate what they are.
So Pat, we're out of time, but we really appreciate spending some time with you during this busy election period, especially during the final days. Really appreciate you taking the time out to chat with us.
You're welcome, and thank you for putting me on your station.
Absolutely. Pat Chizek is the Alberta Liberal Party candidate for Lethbridge-West. I'm Naveen Day. On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, thanks for watching.